The tiny silver key, despite its delicate beauty, proved useless against the imposing brass handles of the giant doors. Frustration welled up inside Alice, a bitter taste mixing with the lingering sweetness of the strange spices. She slumped to the sandy floor, the weight of her situation pressing down on her. The whispers, the clinking keys, the towering shelves, all of it seemed to mock her helplessness. Tears, hot and stinging, welled up in her eyes, blurring the already fantastical scene before her. She buried her face in her hands, letting the sobs rack her small body. The tears flowed freely, hot and heavy, pooling around her on the sandy floor. They weren't just tears. They were rivers, torrents of emotion that swelled and spread, mirroring the overwhelming feelings within her. The sandy floor quickly became saturated, the water rising rapidly around her ankles, then her knees, until she was standing waist-deep in a rapidly expanding pool. The water wasn't cold, but rather a strangely lukewarm temperature, reflecting the chaotic mix of feelings within her. As the pool deepened, the hall around her began to transform. The towering shelves, the giant teacups, the countless bottles, they all seemed to shrink and float, becoming miniature versions of themselves, bobbing gently on the surface of Alice's tears. The ground beneath her feet dissolved, replaced by a shifting, watery landscape that shimmered with a kaleidoscopic beauty. Giant luminous flowers, their petals a vibrant array of impossible colors, blossomed on the surface of the pool, their stems swaying rhythmically with the gentle current. Strange luminous creatures, unlike anything she had ever seen, swam through the water, their bodies shimmering with an internal light. Some resembled luminous jellyfish, pulsating softly as they drifted past, while others were more fish-like, their scales flashing with iridescent colors. They seemed oblivious to Alice's presence, their movements graceful and hypnotic, like a silent underwater ballet. The soundscape of this watery world was as surreal as its visuals. The rhythmic dripping from above, which had been a constant background hum in the hall, intensified, transforming into a rushing waterfall sound, a cascade of water that echoed the intensity of Alice's emotions. This was punctuated by a low, mournful weeping, a distant keening that seemed to emanate from the heart of the pool, a melancholic counterpoint to the water's rush. The sounds created a powerful soundscape that mirrored her inner turmoil. The weeping represented her sorrow, while the rushing water signified the chaotic flood of feelings within her. The overall effect was like being submerged in an orchestra of emotion. Alice found herself swept along by the current, her tears carrying her through this bizarre underwater landscape. The air, thick with the scent of her own despair, hung heavy around her. The giant, floating flowers seemed to beckon her, their luminous petals pulsing gently as if to encourage her to approach. One particularly large flower, its petals a dazzling shade of sapphire blue, looked like a welcoming raft in the otherwise disconcerting sea of her own sorrow. Hesitantly, she reached out and touched one of the petals. It was surprisingly soft and yielding, like silk. As her fingers brushed against its surface, a soft melody began to play, a delicate tune that seemed to emanate from the flower itself. The sound was oddly soothing, a gentle counterpoint to the overwhelming rushing water and distant weeping. It was a lullaby of sorts, a musical embrace in the heart of her emotional turmoil. Swimming near the flower was a small, iridescent fish, its scales flashing with all the colors of the rainbow. It swam around Alice's hand, its movements graceful and playful. It seemed curious, unafraid of her tears, unafraid of her grief. Alice found herself reaching out to touch the fish, her touch eliciting a ripple of light that spread outwards across the surface of the water, causing the luminous flowers to gently glow brighter. The rhythmic pulsing of the light, combined with the flower's gentle melody, had a calming effect on Alice. The intensity of her sorrow began to lessen, replaced by a tentative sense of peace. The strange, luminous creatures seemed to gather around her, their movements becoming more synchronized, as if responding to the melody and light. They formed a circle around her, their shimmering bodies creating a protective halo. She began to feel a strange connection with these creatures, a sense of understanding that transcended language. They seemed to understand her sorrow, to share her pain. And in their silent companionship, she found a sense of solace, a feeling of being understood, a feeling of not being completely alone in her emotional struggle. The rhythmic dripping and the distant weeping became softer, less urgent, blending with the flower's gentle melody and the soft pulsation of the fish's scales. The overwhelming rush of water calmed, becoming a gentle stream that carried her through the watery landscape. Alice continued her journey through this underwater world, guided by the luminous flowers and the shimmering fish. She still cried, but the tears were less intense now, less desperate. They were tears of sadness, yes, but also tears of wonder, tears of acceptance. She realized that her emotions, however overwhelming, were a part of her, a part of who she was. They were not to be denied, not to be ignored, but to be embraced, to be understood, to be channeled into something beautiful and meaningful. As she navigated this emotional ocean, Alice began to understand the essence of her surroundings. The pool of tears was not simply a physical manifestation of her sorrow, but a reflection of her inner world, a hidden landscape that existed within her own mind. And this landscape, however strange and unfamiliar, was ultimately her own creation, a product of her own imagination, a space for her emotions to find their voice. She realized that her journey through Wonderland was not just a physical journey, but a metaphorical one, a journey into the depths of her own being. The rabbit hole had not only led her to a strange and wondrous world, but to a deeper understanding of herself, a deeper appreciation of the complexities of her own emotions. And as she continued her journey, she knew that she would continue to discover new things, not just about the world around her, but about herself. A journey of self-discovery fueled by the tears she had shed, tears that had transformed into a magical and unexpectedly comforting landscape. The journey, the tears, the strange underwater world, they were all part of her transformation, her journey into becoming something more. The adventure in all its bizarre and unpredictable glory was hers to explore.